Good morning and welcome to Great Games Computer Learning Videos. This is the third video in the HTML5 Canvas video series. Today we'll be working with Tutorial 3, Line Styles. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and click on the notepad in the browser to bring them up. And once I have them up on the screen, we'll go ahead and start working. So I'd like to start off by first putting in the HTML code. Then we'll come back and fill in some CSS code, and we'll finish it up with the JavaScript code that we'll need for the canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my tag here. Go ahead and put all caps DOC type, so doc type. This is an HTML document, and I'll start with my HTML tag and put my close HTML tag. Okay, so those are essential tags for the HTML document. The next thing I want to do is fill in my head section and my body section. So let's go ahead and tab over. I'll put in head and my close head tag. And then I'll come down a line and I'll put my body tag and my close body. Okay, so we have the two basic parts of that HTML document in. And then going back up to the head section, we're going to tab in another level and we're going to put in the title and also the style tags. Okay, so we've got the title and we'll put the style in here. Okay, I'm going to move down into the body section now, and in the body section we're going to tab over so we're indented 1 from the actual body tag, and we're going to put in an H1 header level, we'll put in an H3, and we're going to put in a canvas element. And below that we're going to put in a script section. And we're going to finish this off with our H4 section. Okay. So we basically have our HTML tags in here now. If we go ahead and save it, I've saved it as C03 Line Styles.html, and I'll just click on the save button after I've saved it. And if I refresh the browser, I see there's still nothing on the page because these are just markup tags here, but there's no real text to print to the screen at this point. Okay, so now I want to start plugging in some data into my HTML tags, and then I'm going to come back and do a little styling on it. So for the title area up here, I'm going to go ahead and put the title, which is Tutorial 3. And I'll put it in like this. In the style area, we're going to open this up here in just a moment with some CSS code. So I'm going to leave that for right now. I'll jump down to my H1, and this is going to be the title that displays on the page. So it would be like this title. Okay, this title up here is the one that displays up here on the tab, and the one that's going to display actually on the page will be the one that's in the H1 header levels here. So I'm going to put this in as Tutorial 3. And we'll make sure that we capitalize this. For the H3 header levels, we're going to put in the subtitle. And for the subtitle of this here, I'm going to go ahead and just put the name of this tutorial, which is Line Styles. Okay. And then if I come down to my H4 area, this is going to have the copyright information. So like I put here, Great Games, copyright 2016, all rights reserved. You can put your first and last name, or better yet, just your last name there. I'm going to go ahead and use Great Games here. And my text is wrapping because of the size of the font in my editor. Yours probably isn't wrapping, so don't deliberately put this on a second line unless it wraps there. Okay, so you can have that all in one line and make it nice and neat. Okay, once I've got this basic text in there, I'm going to click on the save, refresh my browser, and I see that I've got this information in there. Now, I don't see my canvas displaying here, but if I press Control A and select everything on the page, I can see it. By default, it's 300 wide by 150 high. We're going to change that because we want it to be a different size. We also want different colors for our background and so forth, so we can see it nicely like up here. So at this point, I'm going to do some formatting with my CSS. I'll open up the styles area. So just open it up like this. Inside here, I'm going to format the body of this page. So I'm going to put BODY, open curly brace, and then after the open curly brace, I'll put a background color. So I'm going to come down, tab N1, and after background dash color, colon, I'm going to go ahead and put a shade of blue. This blue is going to be the same shade of blue as on this page here. So I'm going to use hexadecimal for this here. So it's 4D 7A FF, and then I'll put a semicolon. Next thing I want to do is put a font color on here because I want my font to be white, not black. And if you look on this page down here, by default it is black. I want it to be white like up here. So I'll go back up to this section, put in color, and I'm going to make this white. And then I also want to change the font. I don't particularly care for this New Times Roman look. I want something that's more like the Century Gothic. So I'm going to go to Font Family, colon, and then inside the quotes I'm going to put the name of the font, followed by a semicolon. And the last thing I want to do is I want this text to be formatted in the center of the page, kind of like the one up above. So at this point I'll put in text align, text dash align, colon center, and after your semicolon, make sure that you follow it up with a closed curly brace to close this section here. Now the next thing I want to do is come down. I'm going to backspace over one, actually full tab, and I'm going to go ahead and type canvas because I'm going to do some formatting to this canvas also. Basically what I want to do is I want to change the background to white. It appears to be white right now, but that's only because by default it's transparent. So it's whatever the color of the background is what color the canvas will be. I want to hold it to that white when I change the background of the page to blue. So I'll put background dash color, and I'm going to put this in as white, followed by a semicolon and a closed curly brace. Alright, so that takes care of my CSS. I've got my HTML that I put in earlier. And now I need to come down and put in some JavaScript, and that's going to go in the script area here. Before we actually do that, I'm going to do a little bit of fine tuning on this canvas element. So I'm going to click after the first tag. Okay, so I'm separating the first tag with the last one. And inside here, I'm going to tab over, and I'm just going to put Update Browser. And an exclamation mark. Okay, basically what that's going to do is that if I run this page in an older browser that does not support Canvas, rather than having an error pop up, it just displays the text that you have between the open and closed canvas tags. So if it doesn't show this element, canvas, it'll just display this update browser, letting the user know that their browser is probably out of date. So once I have that in there, I'm going to go back into this open canvas tag here. I'm going to tab over, and I want to give this canvas area a name. So I'm going to use the ID attribute here. I'm going to set it equal to my canvas, and I'm putting this in quotes, and also take note that the C in canvas is capitalized here. Okay, now I can call this anything I want to call it, but I'm going to use this because it's kind of a generic name, and we'll know that it is referring to the canvas. Next thing I want to do is give it a height and a width, because the default size is 300 wide by 150 high, and I actually want this to be 400 wide by 200 high. Okay, and that should take care of my canvas. Now, last thing we need to do is we need to go down and do the script stuff. I'm going to save it real quick and do a run, just to make sure that we see the changes. We see the white font on the foreground, we see the blue background, we see the canvas is now larger than it was, and it's also holding its white background, which is what we specified up here in the CSS properties. Okay, so going down into the script area, I'm going to click here, come down a couple lines, and in my script area I'm going to write the code that's going to actually draw these items on the canvas. Basically, we're going to put some lines and boxes on here. So first thing I want to do is tab over. We're going to define a couple of variables. So the first one is going to be called canvas. So we have var canvas, and this is going to be equal to the document dot and then get element by ID, open parenthesis, quote, and then we're going to pass that string my canvas, close quote, close parenthesis, and a semicolon. Okay, so let's just double check and make sure we've typed it right. We should have var canvas all lowercase equals, and then this here should be on the same line, but mine is wrapping. If yours is not wrapping, don't force it on the next line. I should have document, double check the spelling, it should be all lowercase, dot get element by ID. Okay, get is all lowercase, element has a capital E, by is a capital B, and ID is a capital I. And then make sure in parentheses that you pass my canvas inside the quotes, and then you close it with the semicolon at the end of the statement. Okay, come down one line and we're going to put in the variable number 2, which is going to be called context. So I'm going to put var context equals, and then what we're going to do is call the canvas that we just created, and we're going to use a method from that object called getContext. You'll pass a string, which is 2 lowercase d, and finish it up with a close parenthesis and a close semicolon. So let's double check it real quick, make sure that our text is correct. Var context all lowercase equals canvas lowercase dot get context, capital C in context, and then in parentheses we're going to pass a string in quotes to D, make sure the D is lowercase, and finish it with a semicolon. Okay, I'm going to come down a couple lines from there now, and I'm going to put a little note in here, so I make my notes with double forward slashes, and I'm going to call this rectangle box. Okay, So this rectangle box is going to be this large blue one on the outside. We're going to go ahead and create that using lines. And so down below we're going to call context, begin path. Make sure you use a capital P in path. Open, close parenthesis, and end. Okay. Now we could come down a couple lines here if we want. Put context, dot, and then we're going to put stroke to close that path. So I'll go ahead and put that there. Now everything else in between here is what's going to be drawn with that particular path. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of formatting with the lines at this point. So I'm going to use context dot line width with a capital W, and we'll set this equal to 10. So basically that just gives it a thickness of 10, which is 10 pixels. And you see that it's a nice size for this particular project. The bigger the number, the more pixels wide it is. The smaller number, all the way down to 1, which is the default, would be 1 pixel. Okay, next line down, we're going to put the stroke style. So I'll put context dot stroke style. Make sure you use a capital S for in style. This is going to equal the color that you want to use, and I'm going to use mine as blue. And then finish it off with a semicolon. Okay. Now the next line, we're going to put what they call the cap on this particular line. So I'm going to put line cap. Okay, and I'll explain this in just a minute. But I'm going to pass a string called square. Finish it with a semicolon. Okay. Now we have all the formatting of the line here, and I'll show you the differences here in just a second. The line width, of course, is the thickness. These are much thicker here, for example, than the actual border of the triangle. The stroke style is the color that you want to make that particular line, and so we're using blue for this outer edge, for this rectangular box. Okay, and then we have the line cap. The line cap is what the end of the line will look like. Now you notice that the first one up here, which is the squared cap, and the last one, which is the butt cap, look about the same, except for the butt cap is a little bit shorter looking. Okay, the reason why is because when we specify a length, and let's assume for just a moment that this were 100 pixels, this butt cap would put it exactly on a 0, or wherever we're going to start, and move exactly 100 pixels from that point and stop. Now if you look at the round cap and also the squared cap, these particular lines will do the 100 pixels, but they also include, the round cap will include the diameter, actually it will include the radius cap on it, a rounded cap of the radius. And the squared will do kind of the same thing, but instead of the rounded one, it will do the squared cap. So it's going to be slightly longer than 100, and if you were going for the accuracy, and that was a factor that you needed, the precision, the butt cap is the best because it goes exactly from that point to the point you're going to draw to, and there won't be any cap on it. But sometimes you want to have lines that are a little bit beautified, they look a little bit different, a little unique, and so you may need to use those in your drawings. So you pick and choose as the web designer. Let's go down now and finish off this rectangular box. So the first thing we need to do is move to a point where we're going to start, and I know that this point right here is 25 by 25, meaning that it's 25 over from the left and it's 25 down from the top. Everything is measured from the left and from the top. So we're going to put in a line of instruction here, context dot, and we're going to say move to. The T and 2 is capitalized, and we're going to say 25, comma 25, and then a semicolon. Okay, so basically that moves to this point, but it doesn't drag the pen, so it's not drawing anything yet. It's like you grabbing a pen or a pencil and moving it to a location on the page to begin your drawing or writing, whatever you're going to do. We're not actually dragging to that point, we're moving to that point, and then we're going to start to draw from that point. So the next line, we're going to be moving from this point here all the way across the top to this point. I know this whole thing here is 400. We specified it to be 400. And if we're starting 25 in here, we'll want to end at 25 from this side so that the margins look even. So with that, I'm going to put context dot line 2, capital T. Don't leave those capital letters out because it'll cause an error. And we're going to be moving to 375, which is 25 less than that 400. So 375, comma, and our y is still the same distance from the top on both ends. So it should be 25. Okay, so with that, if I go ahead and save this, I should be able to refresh this and see that line across the top. Now, if it doesn't draw that line across the top, it usually means that there's something that's missing in our coding area. So let's just make sure one more time, and it's not showing up. So I'm going to double check, and I notice I have a large space here, which is definitely causing a problem. So let's save again, refresh, and we still have a little problem. So I'm going to double check this real quick. Line width equals 10, context dot stroke style equals blue. Okay, so far so good. Context dot line cap with a capital C equals square. This looks like it's good. Context dot move to, this is good. And we have an error here. So let's go ahead and fix this. Line 2, everything else looks pretty good. So let's try it one last time and make sure that we've cleaned up all those errors, and we do have that line across the top. Now the next part's going to be relatively easy. I have this line 2 statement, so I'm going to click on 31. If I click on 31, and rather than doing this drag thing, I don't like to drag like this here across and select. I like to select entire lines. So I'll click on 31, it selects my entire line. Press Control C, which copies that, and then I'm going to hit Control V as in Victor 4 times. The first time it just pastes it over top of where we are, and then the next 3 will draw 3 more lines in here. So I'm going to just hit Control V 4 times, and I've got my 4th line in here. And all these coordinates are the same, so it's going to just kind of keep it all right here in this point for right now. But I'm going to go ahead and plug in these other numbers. So if I'm coming down this way, I know that I'm going to come down, this is 200 from top to bottom. We put it in as 200. And so if I'm 25 from the top here, I want 25 up from this 200, which should be 175. So 375, because we haven't changed the x-axis, it's still in this x-axis, but the y has gone down now to 175. So the second line, we're going to put this here at 175. Okay, now we're going to move over to this point here, which is going to be 25 for the x, 175 for the y. So we're going to put in 25 here and 175. And then our last line goes from here up to where we began, essentially. So we're just going to move back to this 25 by 25. So I'll put in a 2 there, and we've got 25 here. Let's save and refresh. And we've got our rectangular box all the way around. So that was very easy to put in there. Now the next thing we need to do is to do the horizontal lines in between. So there's a couple ways we can do this. Probably the easiest way is to take what you've got, take the knowns, and you can change and modify for the things that you will need. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 25, which selects the first line here, and drag all the way down to 36. I'm going to go one past because I want a space in between these. And I'll hit Control C to copy, Control V twice to paste it. I should have 2 of those now, 2 rectangle boxes. The second one is actually going to be for my square cap. So I'm going to go ahead and change this here to square cap line. And we're going to change a few things inside here. This one is red, so we're going to make it red. I'm also going to make it thicker. These lines up here are 10 pixels wide. I'm going to make all of these 25 pixels, so they're going to be much wider. So I'll change this line width here to 25. For my line cap, I'm doing a square, so this is going to be the same. And then down here, I need a place to start my line. And for this particular one, I'm going to start it at 75, 60. So I'll put 75 here, 60. And I'm going to move this here to line 325 by 60. So 325 by 60. Okay, so I'm at 60 here. I'm slightly, if you look, this is the middle here, which should be at 100, and I'm not quite halfway between that and the top, so I'm down about 60, and I'm starting in 75 right here. And so when I get over to this side, I need to stop 75 from 400, which is 325. So this is my 325. I can double click on these, not double click, I'll click on 44 through 46 and just press delete, because we only have one line in this particular one here, this path. And so in this path here, we've got a line width of 25, it should be red, line cap is square, and we're going to move to this point and then draw it to this point. Okay, let's go ahead and save it, and we'll refresh and take a look. And we see we've got that line across here now. And mine looks like it's actually a little bit thicker than this one. So I'm going to actually drop this down to about 20. So it's not quite as thick as what we originally had there. And refresh, and we see that it's more in line with this size. Okay. Now we need to put the green round cap in here, and also the purple butt cap. And those will be much easier because they're going to be very similar to the square cap. So if you click on 37 and drag down to 45, once again I'm going one line below because I want to leave a space in between each of these blocks. I'm going to press Control C to copy that. And then I need three of these. I need the original square cap, and then I need a round cap, and also I need the butt cap. So I'm going to press Control V 3 times. And once I have those three in there, this one is done. We just did that. This one down here is going to be the round cap. And the last one down below here is going to be the butt cap. Okay. So now in the round cap, what we're going to do is we're going to change this to green. And we want this to be round instead of square. And we're going to drop this down so it's right in the vertical center of that canvas area, which is at 100. So we're just going to change this to 100. And we're going to leave the X points the same. Still going to come in 75, and we're still going to end 75 from the end. And down below we have the butt cap, so we're going to change this here to purple. We're going to put butt for the type of cap, and we're going to bump this down up here. This should have actually been 60. So we came down 40 to 100. We're going to come down to 140 on these. Okay, so just double check your numbers there. I'm going to scroll back up just to make sure that on this first one, the square cap, if you notice it's a little bit on an angle here. We had this going from 60 to 65, so it was coming down a little bit. I bumped them back, this one back up to 60, so it should be horizontal now. All right, let's go ahead and save it, and we'll take a look at that. We'll refresh it, and we see that we have basically the same project that we were intending to build, so almost identical. All right, that completes this video. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.